Any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. Okay, let's go ahead and open up that waiting room and welcome everybody. As people are coming into the waiting room, we want to make sure that give people just a little bit of time to come in. We'll turn that ding ding off. Hello and welcome to Daily with Doc. So excited to have you here with us as we're going to be talking about our fur babies or our feather babies today. So if you have pets, you are in the right place in finding out information from one of the leading veterinarians around the world. In fact, the veterinarian that was responsible for bringing the white rhino back from extinction in South Africa. Actually, Africa. Is it South Africa or just Africa, Doc?
South Africa.
South Africa. And I have Albert, who is in South Africa, give me the thumbs up to it being in South Africa as well. And yes, let me put you on the screen, Doc, because we want to make sure that people see that Dr. Wallach has a book, one of his first books, actually second book, that was written, and it goes through the whole adventure of saving the white rhino, and the book is called Rhino Express. So folks, if you yourself like little adventure books, or you have a teenager or a little bit beyond early reader, but this is a fantastic book that gives a little adventure that goes through a real life story on saving the white rhino. So thank you everybody for joining us here. Thank you, Doc, for holding that up. And you'll see he was holding up pictures that were actually taken during this expedition of him and what they were doing in their expedition and their not just attempt, but their successful endeavor to save the white rhino.
And we caught 250 of them.
250 rhinos.
Yeah, there was only 350 left by actual count. We caught 250 of them and sent one male and two females to all these wild animal parks all over the place. And today there's over 116,000. So we're very, very proud of that.
Well, Dr. Wallach, I have a question. And folks, I'll get into completing the introduction of him. So when you capture an animal and take it out of its environment, how does that affect, or how does it possible? What else did you do? Not just capture them and put them in an area that was more controlled, but what did you do in their own habitat?
We put them on a boat. We put them on a boat and we take them to all these various places.
All right, so that's going through and part of the whole capture process and putting them into their box. That it's not just putting them into the box though, because you explained a little bit about how you were feeding them in the box so that they got more comfortable with it, right?
Yeah, we fed them on the front end, cleaned out the middle on the back end, and then we would, pick up the box and drive around, back down, and so forth. And we did that for 6 to 8 weeks. When they were very comfortable with it, we'd put them on a boat and ship them to some place that had a big reserve for them.
All right. Now, in their own habitat, you were hoping to, did you do cleanup? What did you do to help strengthen their own habitat?
Okay, what we did is we dammed up streams so they had permanent water ponds and lakes. So it wasn't just water maybe 2-3 months out of the year. Okay, so they could stay in one place. And we grew alfalfa hay. Okay, we grew great pastures of alfalfa hay on their place.
Okay, so do they graze kind of
They
like
graze,
cattle?
they're grazers. The black rhino are browsers. The white rhinos are grazers.
So what's the difference between a browser and a grazer?
Well, grazing, they're like a cow. They're eating the grass on the ground. Browsing, they're like a deer. They're eating the branches and the leaves on a tree.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. I learned something. Well, folks, you're in for a treat because you're going to learn a whole lot more about Dr. Wallach and what he has done as a veterinarian, but not just a veterinarian, a pathologist as well. So Dr. Wallach started out as a young boy and on a farm. He took an observation of what the animals were eating and how they interacted and acted as individuals. And he himself he was having a little trouble, as a child. In fact, it's possible back in those days you might have gotten a few spankings or so for behavior. But he noticed that the animals weren't acting up. So he decided to change what he was eating for breakfast and ate what they were eating for breakfast. And somehow that just helped him as well. So it really does matter what we put in our mouths. It also matters what we absorb. But that was just the beginning, where Dr. Wallach then was able to be very successful in school. He even participated as a little guy in sports where he lettered in wrestling and football and any other sport?
Track.
Track. And then went on to college and worked his way through college in a pathology lab. He got a Bachelor of Science in agriculture and plant and soil sciences, and then went on to do veterinary of doctor of veterinary medicine,
Mm.
which I think is really cool, Dr. Wallach, because some of your studies, in fact, one of them, as you were just a student in the pathology lab, is what led to you being invited to be on that expedition of saving the white rhino. And that's when a whole flock of sheep overnight died. So tell us a little bit about that, Doc.
Well, they died of acute nitrate poisoning. Okay, nitrates because they were the fields they were eating in and turned into were over fertilized with nitrate fertilizer, and they were put in that new pasture, and they all ate that during the night, and they're all dead by morning. Over 100 of them, and so actually it was close to 1,000. And I figured it out, and biochemistry that I had. And so that was one of my first scientific papers, and kind of exciting. And
Well, Dr. Wallach, with that study right there and nitrate poisoning and having it affect the thyroid, let's think about this, folks. When you look at processed meats, they process those with nitrates.
that's correct.
And then we wonder why there's hypo and hyperthyroidism. I mean, let's connect the dots and just use common sense. We don't want processed foods. And that's why they're on the bad foods list as well, right, Doc?
That's correct. And of course, it's one of those things where I would just take information, for instance, the what the little water animals in the aquariums. Okay, we're talking about the ones that are in the ocean.
Okay.
Okay, we're talking about
The dolphins.
the dolphins. They were dying of congestive heart failure.
Mm,
Mm. Well, they were dying of
yeah.
congestive heart failure because they were eating a fish that consumed certain vitamins. And so I knew that. So I took what they were eating, changed what they were eating, and gave them all 90 essential nutrients And immediately the deaths stopped from congestive heart failure in the dolphins. And then we started using it on people, got the same result. So I started going
Because of,
from animals now at this point to people.
so, and that's because of intentional supplementation.
That's correct.
You
Proactive
found that
supplementation, avoiding the bad stuff. You have to avoid the bad stuff.
conditions were happening and going on. You were able to link that to nutritional deficiencies being the underlying cause. And then you correct that deficiency, and lo and behold, things just get better,
Yeah. And of
right?
course, one of the big ones was white mussel disease in lambs and calves and goats and so forth. It was a terrible thing. And it was figured out by the biochemists, in the animal industry. They started giving them these nutrients in their little alfalfa pellets. It wasn't the alfalfa, it was the nutrients that they put in the alfalfa pellets. So I started giving my classmates that had muscular dystrophy those alfalfa pellets with
Well,
the vitamins and minerals in them for their breakfast instead of the Wheaties and that kind of stuff. And these kids, they had muscular dystrophy for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and in just 2 to 6 weeks, they were cured.
well, and I know you worked with
Marlon Perkins from the old Mutual Omaha Kingdom show, and he's the one
right,
who sent me to Africa to save the
but
wild.
I was thinking when you were talking about the kids with muscular dystrophy, Marvin Ropp was very instrumental in helping with a study that implemented the supplementation in the Amish community where they had a high occurrence of muscular dystrophy.
That's correct. He had a connection with the Amish community, and so it was. We had dozens and dozens of families that had kids with muscular dystrophy. We cured those kids, and we took Marlon Perkins, the old Mutual Omaha Kingdom show. We took him to these villages, okay, and he got grants, $12 million grant from NIH, National Institutes of Health, 10-year study, the disease of exotic animals. You can still go online. You can go online and buy the disease of exotic animals, but they run $1,500, $2,000, $5,000. They originally sold for $25,000 each, and we sold hundreds of them at $25,000 each. Yeah, that's the one. That's the big one. Okay. And I think it's close to 500 pages or thick books, and all these autopsies in there. And so I'm very, very proud of that. That's, that's what should I say? It's one of my first big projects. I was working with Marlon Perkins from Mutual Omaha Kingdom show. And he gets
Well,
his grant. He gets his grant because of the stuff that I did with the muscular dystrophy and also
it was with
congestive heart.
so yeah, so that was all part of and after you saved the white rhino, Dr. Wallach. But that first thing with the lambs and figuring out what caused them to have thyroid issues and goiter was just the beginning of what went into Dr. Wallach.
When the temperature dropped low, they all had low thyroid, and so they all died of hypothermia that one night.
So think about it, folks. If you're always cold, might be a connection to what you're eating and what you're not absorbing and what you're not intentionally supplementing with. So, Doc, let's get to pets, like domestic pets. So we've been going through, the whole wildlife thing. And we have a lot of people that have domestic pets that are listening and watching. And thank you. Somebody just said that this should be on CNN. Let's do it, Doc. Let's do it. Okay, so we've got horses, we've got dogs, we've got cats, we've got parrots, even, and turtles. All of these different animals that are considered pets, even fish. And people are wanting to make sure that their pets are getting what they need, especially when they start seeing decline. Now, folks, Prevention is a whole lot cheaper than reaction. But if you have to react, Dr. Wallach, in many cases, it's not too late, is it?
No. Again, when you look at the whole idea of treating individual animal dex complete. Okay, I-26 Athridex complete comes in 1 pound canisters. You can look it up. It's, you know, on every advertisement you can think of. I-26 companion biologists on that project. They got the